Thank you for tuning in to Broken Brilliance, featuring entrepreneurs, professionals, community leaders, and other successful individuals from all walks of life that had to be broken, crushed, or stripped down to the studs to excel beyond measure and brilliantly rise up and walk in their purpose. Learn what is really real. Receive tips, tools, and resources you can use today so that you, too, can be brilliantly broken.
Welcome to the inaugural season of the Broken Brilliance podcast. Come on in and take a seat. In fact, get comfortable. My name is Tawanda Livingston, and I will be your guide for your Broken Brilliance journey. I am humbled and honored to bring to you this season stories, testimonies, praise reports, resources, and gems of greatness that will activate the wealth warrior in you, the success savage in you, and the prosperous prophet in you. These comeback stories are from folks that looked failure in the eye and said, give it your best shot, because I refuse to go back to where I was. I refuse to worry about where I'm going, and I'm determined not to stand still in silence. These individual stories you will get to hear and hopefully learn from are way makers, water walkers, hope dealers, and faith walkers. These individuals have successfully turned their casualties into catalysts of courage. They've turned their pain into purpose and even their worst devastations to destiny-building successes. These individuals refuse to be disturbed, distracted, or disrupted because they knew what was on the other side of their challenges, failures, losses, and sufferings were their endless possibilities and successes. Their destiny was there, prosperity, and life-giving and sustaining purpose. So if you aspire to be great, if you are inspired to achieve, conquer, or dominate in life or business, if you are motivated to move differently in life, move with expectation, and leave a legacy of greatness from the womb to the tomb, my friends, you are tuning in to the right podcast so you too can be brilliantly broken. The only thing I can say right now is wow. Wow, wow. Words cannot express how I feel about today's speaker. He's a powerful man of God and a courageous soldier in God's kingdom. To say he is a business genius, a successful serial entrepreneur, an inspirational leader is an understatement. Our speaker today is a man of great courage, endless compassion, and a wealth of knowledge. The span of his influence as well as service to our communities is immeasurable. Mr. Donald T. Anderson III is a confluence of entrepreneurship and wealth creation, a thought leader in debt remediation, insurance, and finance areas. Mr. Anderson has been a catalyst for progressive and economic inclusive changes in his industries and in our marketplace. Please allow me to share with you a little bit more about Mr. Anderson and his impact to business and our diverse communities. Mr. Anderson is the Chief Financial Officer of Taylor & Anderson. Mr. Anderson combines knowledge acquired in the trenches with his professional leadership experience. Taylor & Anderson partners and jointly collaborates to work with business owners, corporations, and professionals interested in learning how to grow their business. Taylor & Anderson will show you ways to accomplish your goals. Taylor & Anderson is a company that provides credit education, financial consulting, insurance benefits, business loan services, and management consulting to its clients. Mr. Anderson's strong commitment to the community is demonstrated through serving on various nonprofit boards and community development corporations in our community. Currently, he serves as a member for various boards, including but not limited to the Calvert County Minority Business Alliance in Prince Frederick, Maryland, Forest Heights CDC in Oxon Hill, Maryland, and Potomac Muse Homeowners Association. He also served as the chairman of the board for the Town of Indian Head Economic Development Commission and the chairman of the 2015 Martin Luther King Economic Empowerment Day for Union Bethel AME Church in Brandywine, Maryland. Mr. Anderson has been the featured speaker at numerous financial seminars within the Maryland and the District of Columbia region over the past several years. Most importantly, Taylor and Anderson has a vested interest in helping you take your business to the next level while providing your family with financial protection they need to thrive. Mr. Anderson offers a plethora of products and services to help you build and sustain wealth for retirement and eliminating debt. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Mr. Donald Anderson. Welcome, Donald.
Well, thank you, Tawanda. I'm trying to figure out who this guy is. Can I talk to him? But I do want to just do one little tidbit because I am the second. And my dad is, with all respect to my dad is the first. He's senior.
Okay.
So my official name is Donald Anderson II. And all of that stuff, I was like, wow, kind of choked up hearing you talk about it. But I did serve on those committees. I'm currently serving on the stuff you mentioned, but the Indian Head was back in 2014 and 15, which I was the first minority voted in on that, and I'm proud of that because the community is still, to this day, going under growth, and there's some different things going on down there, including a College of Southern Maryland campus, which is great for that area down in south of 210. And then the church piece was back in 2015 when I was doing the chairman of that for the Union Bethel community down in Brandywine in southern Prince George's County. But everything else is right on point, Tawanda, so I'm humbled to be here, thankful for you and your time, and also Gail for getting this off the ground and coordinated. So I'm humbled and definitely excited to be on the podcast.
Well, we appreciate you being here. Regardless of the year you planted the seed, we are feeling that prosperity right now, and we get to reap all those seeds that you sowed in past years. So we thank you for your commitment to the community and what you do for the business community as far as building wealth, generational wealth. Would you like to tell our listeners today a little bit more about yourself? I mean, we've skimmed your resume, but we want them to learn more about who Donald Anderson is on this entrepreneurial journey.
I mean, for that part, I'm a good old boy when it comes down to the core of me. Humble, country guy, roots from southern Prince George's County, raised in Clinton, and have roots in North Carolina. So I have a hard-working background. I've been working probably since I was 12, 13 years old, from, picking watermelon, cucumbers. My grandfather, showed me a lot of work ethic. And I've always had a nose for numbers. I believe back when I was like 11 or 12, when my mom bought her first piece of property, I was looking at real estate appraisals at 12 years old. So I've always had a nose for finance and appraisals. But, you get into your gift as you go through life. Didn't know it at the time, but I just think, thank God for just being steadfast in my journey when it comes to getting involved in finance and getting deeper in it through the years. But from 12 years old up until now, you're talking a good 35, 40 years of life. But my roots are pure. I try to help people regardless of their background, whether you're a multimillionaire or you're someone starting out. I pretty much have seen both sides of that when it comes through folks, whether they're dealing with the credit, finance, restructure, business, retirement early. So that's why, with my company, before I branched it, I really had to think deep on what would serve a purpose to the community, as well as getting the company trademarked. So it took me close to I've been in the business now, almost 25 years, but I didn't branch off with Taylor and Anderson until 2016. So, but the years they've been good to me, but I've had my ups and downs. And, with that testimony, when you go through a lot, you can be a light for someone else. So one thing with me is I'm transparent when someone is dealing with something. I try to meet them where they are versus not talking at them, but try to talk with them so we can go through the process and try to be a service as well as a light to get them to the next level versus someone not connecting. Because a lot of times with finance, people just do not open up. And for whatever reason, pride or pain or whatever the issues are or past failures, they just don't trust. And so the key thing is building trust with people. And through the years, that's been my mantra, to get people to trust you, you connect with them, and then they will eventually do business with you.
That is awesome, and that's great. And I like the fact that you mentioned transparency and also being a light, because finance is an area where some people, and some people will say most people, are in the dark about. So having
Right.
someone that's in your corner that know the ins and outs and turning that light on for you is critical, whether you're in business or whether it's your personal finances.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate not only the level of effort you put in, but Donald, you are very, very customer centric. It's about the people for you and not necessarily the politics. I like to say people ticks for you, because
Right.
you really do care about your clients. Each client, when they walk away from you, Donald, feel like you guys have been friends for 25, 30 years. That's a gift to make people feel that comfortable, because finances are very, very personal. And people would say very, very intimate. And when they expose it, it makes them vulnerable.
Right.
Tell us about, how did you acquire this gift of making people open up about something so very private?
I guess when I look at the core of it, I think I'm a pretty good storyteller, and I look back when I went through the worst times, and I've even given this testimony when I've done presentations for like banks and different clients. The first time I bought a piece of property, we're going back about maybe 20 years. I went through a bad divorce in the 90s, and I don't want tell them my age, because I still think I'm a young seasoned lion here. But long story short, I went through a bad divorce. So I went through a personal bankruptcy. Now, at the time, I didn't have a business. So that being said, I had some credit issues at the time. Now, when I went through, I saved my money and, learned about FHA loan and 3.5% down and the whole nine. I was just excited to get an approval. But my loan officer was in Texas. Long story short, I go to the settlement table, and I was about, I guess, $500 or $600 short. First piece of property, I think I paid $117,000 for it. Thank God I still own it to this day.
All
so
right.
It's an investment for me, and nice townhome, and But the point is, the check I had, my figures, because I wasn't into a loan officer at the time. I was just first time home buyer. Hey, what was I, 29, 30 years old or whatever? And the attorney was like, "Hey, you're short." What you mean short? I said, my calculations, they sent me, I think my check was like $5,300. At any rate, I didn't have enough money. So the owner, this is my quick real estate 101, there's a seller side and there's a borrower side. Well, if you want the keys, you got to come up with an additional like $662 and change, and you might as well tell me $6,000 because I didn't have it. I did not have the money. So I'm like, well, I done come this far, and I'm trying to think, and everybody got quiet. The attorney looking, real estate looking. So it was like I was in this cold room, and I'm just like, how do you? And the owner was like, well, son, he called me son, and I'm just like, wow, this is kind of, if you want the keys, I mean, this is what we need. And I'm just like, I didn't know anything about lender credits. I knew nothing about adjustments, aggregate adjustments. I mean, I know this now.
Yeah.
But back then, I'm just like, I want this house. So thank God I had to post-date a check. Good old mom. Hey, mom, what's going on? My mother was, living at the time. She's, oh, don't worry about it. I said, but me having the pride as a man, I'm like, I don't want to call my mother about this. But I'm getting this house. So I had to post-date something, juggle around, got my keys. When they did the settlement, the HUD-1 said $117,000 and change to, the seller, and then the borrower, 53 and plus the 6. And I said, wait a minute, this property's paid for. He couldn't give me a $500 or $600 credit. It would have just made a difference of him getting 116, But that was the business side of real estate. They don't disclose that until you settle. And I'm like, wow. I said, I need to learn this business, because there are clients out here that can't even get into a house because somebody's just, he wanted his money. And at the time, like that $117,000, that's a nice little retirement gift or whatever he was doing with it. But he didn't give me my credit. He wasn't obligated to, because I already signed the documents. I just was short. but I could have missed out on my first piece of property. So I tell that story to say, have a good loan officer that's going to give you your figures up to date. And when they do that, make sure you're prepared. Mm-hmm. So once I got in, I said, I'm going to learn the mortgage business. So that was my start to actually get more deeper into getting into the business of finance, because at the time, I didn't have any clue on a HUD-1, what it meant. Didn't know. If you don't know, knowledge is power. So I got to get some knowledge on how does this whole thing work with the closing, the taxes, the escrow. So that's when I first got my taste of, man, you need to get on the stick on learning this stuff. And that was 20 years ago.
Well, let me say that it is that type of story that connects you with people. That's why they are willing to open. That's, like I said, it's a gift. It's because you've walked the journey. You're not speaking theory. You've walked through divorce, bankruptcy, getting your first house, and being short at the table, the signing table, and being able to relay those stories to people that help people connect with you and willing to share with you and not be ashamed of bad credit or whatever they're going through. And I thank you for sharing that story, because that's a very powerful story in itself. We can dig deeper in that. And
there's no shame in it, because it's just with people. I think my score was like a 589, or I have great credit now, but my whole point is, coming off of bankruptcy, and it was 2 years from discharge, it's going to take you time to build. But at the time, my whole thing was, hey, I got the divorce behind me. I'm working 2 jobs. I wasn't in my own business, so I want a piece of real estate, and I earned it. I worked it. I got my down payment together. And my whole thing was, damn it, I'm getting this house. But it was just faith that pushed me to go through. But that's why when I talk to people now on the insurance or business loans or whatever they're dealing with, I do everything. So it's no hidden. There are certain models and processes that you go through.
Yes.
But I've had clients that have had, $2, $3, $4 million businesses that have had, struggles with trying to get things structured right, or tax deferments, or whatever it is. And I've seen it. I'm licensed. I'm certified. So that story, that's just my story. But my point is, there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes down to you learning and getting to the next level. And the man I am now, going through that, I'm a better man for it. Yeah. But I wouldn't advocate a person saying, oh, yeah, go through a bankruptcy. That's not the way to go. But if you have to do it, there's no shame in it. You just move on from that. I think Martin Luther King says it best, when faith is taking your step, or the first step, without seeing the first staircase. So you may not see the whole valley of what you're going to get into, but go ahead and take the step, and then try to trust, or have a trusting network of people that can guide you through it, versus not saying anything or being ashamed of it.
Yes. And so that experience was a catalyst for you.
Yes. I didn't know it at the time, but yes, now, definitely. And
so let me just go back to, you said you had multiple jobs and you were working. There's something that clicks in you, I believe, that makes you want to shift from being a employee to an employer, that makes you want to be a lender instead of a borrower. So
absolutely.
What's that click that made you shift from, look, I need to have my own business?
And I'm trying to, for the sake of the podcast, keep the stories as short as I can. But through my life, I've had almost like 2 to 3 epiphanies. I know the first one was my first piece of property. Once I got my mortgage license, I think from the years of like 2004 up until 2010, I ran a collection agency, manager of the year. You had a part ownership in one, so I know all about debt, deletion of debt, the whole 9. And I was getting my mortgage business off the ground and made an excellent income for about 5 years until the mortgage industry tanked. If you go back to 2009 and 10, kept my licenses active, but during that time, I know I originated close to $30, $40 million worth of loans. So I was making an enormous amount of money when it comes down to the mortgage side, learning subprime, how to get people in loans with bad credit, knowing the industry, arms adjustment, the whole nine, and I was still managing and working W-2. So I think I'm a quiet master of the W-2 game and the 1099 game, knowing how to get income on one side and then be a quote-unquote independent. But at the time, when the mortgage industry, and anyone that was working back then knows, it was a really tough go after the crash with the market. I didn't know a lot about markets. So I had to go back into full W-2 mode because people that had properties appraised for $800,000, $900,000, $1 million, especially in Prince George's County, they were getting appraisals at 50% of that. A lot of foreclosures are subject to predatory lending law. So I learned about loan modifications. So everything I learned during that time prepared me to be credit counseling, helping people, and even with my mortgage business, I couldn't even write and originate because credit had basically dried up. I couldn't get people. They were calling me, "Hey, Don, I need a loan," and but I couldn't get them in an approval because the appraisal, what they bought, let's say in 2006, when things were good, 2009, 2010, property values decline. I was getting all these sort of declines. Property value doesn't meet requirement. The appraisals just coming. So I said, "Shuck in." You couldn't survive. So the insurance and knowing the markets were now, if I push forward to what I'm doing now, knowing the indexes, knowing what the LIBOR would do, the Dow Jones, how to protect yourself with retirement, annuities, that's a whole different language when it comes to finance. But back then, making a great living just doing mortgages, when people get their properties, you don't really get caught up in, what they do with the cash after they refi. You just get them approved, make your money, or wait till they call and say, "Well, Don, I want to buy another piece of property." I wasn't getting involved into the other side, where now I'm working the other side. And that's nothing but the grace of God that has shifted me from doing that to now being more full circle when it comes to retirement, insurance plans, individual health care, disability, and even doing business lending. That's just a shift. It's like a paradigm shift when it comes to where I'm at now. But I didn't branch that out until 2016. So it took me another probably 5 or 6 years of working W-2, and then I prayed and got the vision of Taylor and Anderson and started the company at that time, because of what I saw in the community and what was needed. That was just a pulse of what I saw. It wasn't like a big, hey, this is going on, that's going on. I just went on personal experience based on some of the clients I was actually getting help to now the market conditions. Now these businesses need help. How do you help them? Then I got the vision of Taylor and Anderson through just faith and just deep, deep thought. And that's when that occurred. And then personal, going through the death of my son and my mom and other close family members over a 5-year period, I evolved into getting my insurance license. I think the Lord just shifted me in 2018 to get that. So with getting that, then I supplemented to say, wow, I should be able to get agents and credit. So I just, trademarked the company in 2019 to where it is now, managing multiple platforms and doing what I do. But I don't look at it as some sort of, I'm not here to like beat on my chest and, hey, look at me and this, that, and the third. But it's just, that's my story. And I'm sticking to that because God has shifted me into some areas that I didn't foresee it 10 years ago. Hell, I didn't foresee it 20 years ago. But with the personal downs and then coming back and then empowering that knowledge to help build an agency on the insurance and also help get my agents trained properly, that's a blessing. That's what it is.
Yeah, because some of the challenges you face growing your business, reaching this point, would have broken most people. They wouldn't have been able to bounce back and be as resilient as you've been. But I do not want to skip over or skim over one important thing that you mentioned. My heart goes out to you for the loss of your son. Having lost a child, I know there is no more devastating moment in a parent's life than losing a child, having lost my daughter as well. So my heart goes out to you and your family for that loss. And I also want to share with you that I'm grateful that you stayed in the game and you persevered, because we wouldn't have met had you given up. So I'm grateful for the connection we made because you stayed in the game. Now, Donald, you mentioned a couple things that I want to help bring our audience along with understanding, and that is the W-2 and 1099. Can you explain what the difference is for our audience so they can appreciate your journey?
W-2 is your typical 9-to-5 shift work company. You're working for a corporation and they're taking the FICA deduction, state, federal, the normal process of working for an employer. Your 1099 is for your independent contractors, sole proprietors, business owners that are working and have independent people working there where taxes are not taken out. Now, the flip side of that is you can make an enormous amount of money 1099, but you have to be prepared to pay taxes. If you're not prepared, you can owe a lot. So the key thing is, if you're 1099, you want to make sure you're at least saving. These are like commission, personnel that are getting fees and commission. That's a 1099. You want to try to save a minimum of 25 to 30% of everything that you make and just put it somewhere, don't touch it. So that way you have a cushion. Now, the flip side of W-2 is they take those deductions out. Your Social Security, those things are accounted for. But if you're an independent contractor, you have additional write-offs when it comes down to your housing, or if you're using your home office rent, internet. I can go on and on about the different deductions, and I don't want to get into heavy tax advice, but my whole point is, if you're 1099 and W-2, it will absorb your blow a little when it comes to you filing your tax, because your adjusted income will be scaled down some, and that will give you a way to just cushion until you ramp up the business to the point where it can stand on its own. Because a lot of times it takes people years, for profit and losses, expenses, until they get the right core, the right network to really be able to say, I can work my business, or the right contract. If you work in a supplier diversity, you're very familiar with that. If you don't have the right contract supplier, a business can fold in 6 months. So you have to be prepared for that. So the same thing with a W-2. You can have W-2 income that you rely on. And I know when I first started Taylor & Anderson, I didn't literally stop my W-2 because I'm like, hey, I need to get the business going.
Yes.
Because the business, it's faith, it's a vision, but hey, you still got to survive, you still got to eat, you still got expenses, so you need to have a steady paycheck coming in until things can kind of level on out. So that's the premise of keeping the W-2. But as the business grows, then it can self-sustain itself, and you can go through, I call it a process. It's like you crawl, then you walk, then you run. You don't just jump. A lot of people see their business and like, I'm going to just jump out there and run. Well, a lot of businesses fail, too, when they grow too fast. And next thing you know, they can't cover payroll. Why? Well, you went too fast. You didn't have enough contracts, or a downturn in the market, whatever the situation is. And we know, like with this COVID-19 situation, I see it firsthand a lot with people. Some businesses will never come back because either they weren't prepared, or they didn't have the right structure. Sometimes it could have been as simple as you're a sole proprietor, LLC. How are you structured? It just depends on how the business is flowing. But sometimes people don't talk about it until they need something, and then they want to reach out. And you never go to a bank or lender when you're in the desperate need. You want to get your money when things are right and apply for lines of credit and get things done versus waiting until the last minute, then saying, I need to get a loan. I need to, because again, it's the preparedness and the foresight is what's going to get you through.
Yeah, because emergency lending, and I can speak from experience and also witnessing small and minority businesses, I always share that renting money can be expensive. It becomes even more expensive when it's a time of emergency and you don't have any lines of credit lined up that you can tap into. In reference to W-2 and 1099, you shared with us your experiences having to work, be employed while you grow your business. And when we look at it from a business owner standpoint, when they're trying to scale up their operations, one way they would look at scaling their operation is either, do I bring somebody on full-time or part-time as a W-2, or do I do a 1099? Right. And that's something that, from a strategic standpoint, you need to decide as a business owner how you're going to bring on talent. However, one does add to your operating costs much more than the other. Of course, a full-time or part-time employee that's a W-2 adds more to your operating costs than a 1099. What's your thought on that, Donald?
I typically, when I talk to clients, a lot of times I just tell them you could do them part-time, incentivize them until the business grows. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with having incentives that also help the business and get them a part-time, either whether it's a stipend or, be more conservative until you see something. A lot of times, again, it's that whole vision where you're thinking, I'm going to do this, and you put the forecast, projection goal. Well, what if this happens or what if that happens? Now, none of us predicted COVID-19. Yeah. But my point is, what if this? You need to have that contingency plan. Well, worst case scenario, okay, I know we'll do this. You need to plan as if something might happen, but you want to put your goal that it's above that. But as far as your budgetary, let's say if your budget is, well, we'll do, I don't know, $150,000 in sales. Well, I would place, if I'm new starting out, I would place my budget probably at half of that, because I feel like being frugal and being cost effective is better than being foolhardy and saying, hey, we're going to set it at $200,000. Yeah, you can shoot for that. But as far as what I'm on the hook when it comes to these are the dire expenses I want to cover, and I know this is definitely what we can do, I'm going to budget my company on half of what my projection is. That way, I'm always in the black. Put 6 months reserves. Even when I talk to people, when I used to do mortgages, I said, if you can't put 6 months down payment or mortgage in the bank without a blink, then are you ready to buy a house if you're still renting? And I would, this is back in my mortgage days. And like 6 months, I'm like, yeah, you should have 6 months, whether it's in your 401k or somewhere. That's a minimum. If you got 12 to 18, it's better, but at least 6. That way you're more than prepared. Let's say you lose your job or you loss of income or this happened. You split up with your fiance. I mean, it happens. How are you going to cover the mortgage? So it's like, I never thought about that. Well, sometimes you're thinking jointly versus living individually. Same thing with a business. If you have a business partner, what if that person is gone? Do you have key man insurance? Because I talk more into the protection of the business now. How is the business will sustain if one of the partners is not here? Who's going to replace that income? And they're like, I never thought about that. Well, you should think about that or protect your business so you have that type of protection. You need that out here today because, like I said, the markets and the way things turn, it could happen. So be conservative. There's no shame in saying, you know what, I'm going to just start here. And then after a year, you reevaluate to see where you are. And then you'd be better served being in the black, and then whatever you have in your overflow, maybe reinvest that into some sort of hybrid savings or annuity or something like that versus saying, God, I can't cover this, I can't cover that. Because once you have employees on the books, now you got lives that you're talking about that have to be protected versus I got to pull an advance. And I've seen it, pulling advances on credit cards. I got to cover this. I got to, juggling because they over-projected. They didn't plan on losing that contract. They didn't plan on this. And then it comes down to getting the alternative loans, which I've helped clients get them. But the point is that's a last resort because it's better to go traditional or have enough savings or something lined up where you can borrow against your own insurance policy to save money and you pay yourself back the interest instead of giving it to the bank. But a lot of people, they just don't have that heart-to-heart talk, because when you're out here running a business, you're not thinking about, wow, 6 months. You're thinking about tomorrow.
Yeah, you think about that, yes.
Yeah, you're out there rolling, building the business, marketing this and that, but there's no one in your ear saying, what are you going to do 6 months from now? What are you doing next year? What is your forecast? How are you? Oh, I'm just out here swinging, because they've given up the W-2 world, because the business world is like a deep ocean.
Yeah.
And I can even remember when I launched Taylor and Anderson, I was going through seminars and going to the county and going through, because I was new into the whole deep water realm. And I'm like, all these people in here, no one is sharing information. And then as I got my clients built up, I've been blessed to give seminars with some of these people, be at a table of events to show stuff. But when I first started, I was out there looking for information too. Like, hey, I'm a new business. Talk to me, because there is no sharing when you're out there. When you really, really are out there, there's nobody giving up information unless you have a trusted network to say, no, I can help you with this, I'll help you with that. It's a cold world when it comes to being a business owner, unless you have people in your circle or people that you can trust to pick up the phone and say, can you help me with this? Give me some advice on that. Because again, business owners, we're like in a whole different world. And if you've given up the W-2, you don't know what it's like. As you're out there protecting your employees, you're looking more at me, versus W-2. Oh, well, that's on the employer, so I ain't got to worry about that.
Yeah, I got to worry.
Once you put you signing on that line that this is your charter, this is your company, you better worry about it. You be up 2 a.m. worried about how I'm gonna cover something, because again, payroll expenses got to be met. So you have to have a plan.
Yeah. And speaking of having a plan and the power of network, I always say your network will determine your net worth. It's very, very important that you surround yourself with destiny builders. People are going to help you be successful in your business or share with you the need-to-know information. Because I can definitely empathize and sympathize with making that shift from W-2 to entrepreneur, and the struggle is real. It's really real. So I've been blessed to be a part of a destiny building network. And I'm also blessed with the talents and skills that God gives me to be able to acquire a lot of information, knowledge capital. But I do not hold on to the knowledge capital. I share that information generously because, as you stated, Donald, there was no one who shared it with me or was willing to share it with me in the open market space. Let me just say this. I have mentors, I had advisors, I have sponsors. So I'm grateful for those individuals who stepped up to the plate. And I would advise businesses, especially business owners, you need to have ambassadors, sponsors inside organizations you're trying to work with, and also have some type of mentor or sponsor outside of organizations you're trying to work with so that they can help move your business as well. You have to build that network. So as we talk about business ownership and the services that you provide, Donald, could you share with us about connectional marketing versus multi-level marketing? There seems to be some, I'm not sure if you're familiar with these gift-giving communities out there. If you can share with us your thoughts about connectional marketing versus MLM.
Well, it depends how you look at it. I'm not here to browbeat one's better than the other. MLM has its place depending on how it's structured. Connectional marketing, I believe in what they call hybrid marketing. When I say hybrid, I mean when you connect with people, they trust you.
Yes.
MLM is a version of that. The only difference is some organizations, if it's really aggressive, they don't connect. They're just basically getting paid on leveraging your talents and your skills. But corporate America, in essence, when they pay you a salary, they're doing it. It's just covered up more. They don't, they're not going to break down. Like let's say you get a job for $75,000 a year. That full job, if you go through a third-party organization, a headhunter, a recruiter, whatever you want to call it, that job pays more than that. They don't tell you that.
Yeah.
They're going to undercut the salary, so you'll take it. But once you go through the process, they get their percentage for finding you the job, the recruiter, whatever. That job might pay out with benefits 100, 120 grand. But if you only see 75 and you're unemployed and you don't know that, are you going to turn that down?
Yeah.
So you got to look at it from a bigger scope. Now, multi-level marketing, where there's percentages, you have downlines and groups, and that's a little more aggressive when it comes to percentages and fees and building organizations. That's different. You're going to get recruitment based on what you sell and what you produce, and you get a commission and a percentage of another person's production, and so on and so on. A lot of people want to relate it to pyramids. I even put something on social media about a couple months ago. You got to be careful of these pyramid schemes like Sosa that's out there, because they will rob you blind. So pyramids are not with multi-level. Multi-level is more of a corporate type thing with an organization based on a certain structure. And there are some good companies out there, even in the insurance business. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I am in the insurance business. But the fee structures are different. So it's based on your organization. It's normally set by the company. So the concept versus you going out getting a salary through a recruiter or going through a government agency to get with the government or whatever the situation is, they get a fee to find you a job with the government. They get a percent, but they just don't advertise what that fee is. It's more masked, but it's not called multi-level. It's more, you're going through a contract, talk to this person. They've negotiated a fee with the government, and they will hire you, your onboarding paperwork, but they're not going to give you coming in the door. You're not getting the full pay of that job. They just don't tell you that. So I'm saying that to say it depends on what the person's looking for. If it's W-2, that's a different process. That's more of a recruitment or third-party service. Where if it's multi-level for commissions and fees, there's some decent companies out here that you can make a great living at. But if it's just leveraging other people and you're not providing a good service, it teeters on just being a pyramid. And pyramids, like I said, that social scheme that was out there where people were giving money, you getting this, 8 people put money in, and then the next thing you know, you're scamming folks. That's not good. So you have to be leery of things like that when it comes to where you put your money.
And what type of homework one would need to do in order to investigate whether or not they join a connectional marketing, multi-level marketing, or hybrid? What is one of the key factors they need to look at?
Taylor & Anderson is a diversified company with a variety of services ranging from financial management, insurance services, and credit consultation. Taylor & Anderson assists clients in all aspects of finance, mortgage protection, and retirement planning. Our national network of lenders and professionals helps customers receive a premier one-stop shop online shopping experience for their financial services and business needs. To learn more, visit TaylorAndersonLLC.com or call 240-207-4519. Mention Broken Brilliance and receive a no-cost 20-minute financial assessment.
What type of homework one would need to do in order to investigate whether or not they join a connectional marketing, multi-level marketing, or hybrid? What is one of the key factors they need to look at?
Outside of calling Donald or Tawanda, look, I'm old school. If you're a client of mine, and I'm not trying to just push for just clients for Donald, but if you're a client of mine, certain things I'm going to just give you free advice. I'm going to give you free advice. I'm not going to charge you for because God's blessed me with a lot of nuggets that I have. I don't claim to know everything, but what He's blessed me with, I share. And like when we first met, I think it was right in my early phases of Taylor Anderson, we met virtually, and to this day, that faith, the way we met virtually, that initial connection, you saw something in me, but the whole thing, it was a faith test, and we have still grown from, I think it was 3, 4, whenever it was, the point is, it was a great connection. So I'm big on trusting network. If you got a good network, then you accept them, like LinkedIn. I'm on Alignable, even Facebook sometimes. Everybody on Facebook is not, even though sometimes there's some people that hack you got to protect your account, of course, and I'm not advocating everybody drove to social media because there's some crazy folks out there too now. Yeah. But if you're in a trusted network, just like Gail and I go back to, 30 years or so over with being high school, even though we were just, passing acquaintances and, still friends, we knew each other, but to this day, we're friends. And we've connected more on social media, business, I support her, So the point is, those connections, and you trust people, anything digital media, I yield to Gail because that's her gift. She loves it, and but marketing and connecting people, like you said, I have a gift for it, but I'm not the buy-all, end-all. If it's finance, credit, that's a gift of mine. I just, that's what I do. If it's something dealing outside of that, drywall and, dealing with putting up a roof or whatever, home advisor, there's other links that you could get to. But my whole point is your specialty and what you do. I stay in my lane, know your gift, but trust the people that you deal with. If you trust the people that you deal with, you're fine. But if you don't have a trusted network, I can pick up the phone, and if somebody says, if Donald says, yeah, this is something, you can put your name behind it and say, yes, it's something that I've vetted out, and I'm not going to refer something that's not good. Because I've had those people that refer me people, and come to find out they're not who they say they were. Wow. So you got to be careful on that, especially when you're talking about money and finance, because everybody is not ethical, for lack of a better word. So you just got to trust your people and trust who you deal with.
So the key is to make sure you do your homework, build a trusted network, right. Wise counsel, and if it's not your lane, find a trusted advisor to help you navigate that.
And even a step further, Tawanda, folks, I know when I first started, this just popped in my mind, I did a lot of community. I'm big on community. I started off doing, like I said, the nonprofit thing is key for me, working, with the churches. I would incentivize little gift cards and just give something back, be a blessing. Don't be afraid to share, but sometimes we just get caught up in self, and I'm telling you, and I'm still, to this day, my company's evolving, but I'm not too, I don't judge anybody, and I'm this and that. People, they're quick to, what's the word? They want the glory, but they don't know the story.
Right.
So
right.
If you've been through what I've been through and been blessed, I don't make no apologies for blessings. Blessings are blessings. You get your blessings, you keep them, and that's between you and the Lord. But the story part, I don't know of anyone that I've ever met that has gone through as many trials and tribulations that I've had to go through personally, tragedy, business up and down, and still have the blessing. That's why I know it's the favor of God, and I respect that. And not that I'm perfect, and I'm not trying to preach or what have you, but God has put his hand on my business. He's put his hand on my life, so I take it seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm sincere with it. So I don't come out here like, you got, no. I could have $20 million in the bank. I'll still wear my dungarees to the car dealership, put my, my boots on. You'll never know it.
Right.
So I'm a regular guy. When you say, now I could put the nice suit on and go to a corporate event and all like that and, be groomed and professional. But for me, to really know who Donald Anderson is, I'm just a regular guy from around the way that's not scared of anything. And I believe in what I believe, and I know what I know. And I don't make apologies for it. And being a Taurus, my birthday's in April. Once I believe in something, I follow it through. Fail or success, I'm not backing down. Stick to it. It's key for me. So I'm not backing down unless you say, well, darn, I got it. But if you don't say, darn, I got it, if I got it, I'm going to do it. So that's just who I am.
And that's a testament of the man that you are, and that's why you've achieved so much you've achieved. I always say that the test is yours, but the testimony is God's, because I believe that God has breathed on my home, my marriage, myself, my business. You know, I am so blessed to have His kingdom favor on everything. Everything.
Yeah, I'm still scratching the surface to one. I've had a great year this year. Blessings are popping in. My agents are building, my team, my businesses, but I'm just scratching the surface. I'm looking next year to double and triple. I pray on it and keep it moving, and then just send me new favor, and hey.
Everything is going to come to you in His timing.
That's
now,
right.
As we get closer to the end of the podcast, I'm hoping that you can share with folks, what does it feel like to be debt-free? I mean, we say debt-free and being in debt, but to be able to articulate to people, what does that mean?
All right, let me say this, because I don't want to be tooting my own. Everyone has a certain level of debt. Okay, when I say debt, I mean your mortgage, your credit card. There's a certain ratio that you carry. I will say freed up from bondage is probably the best way I can do it. I will say I'm in a lot better position at 52, I don't mind sharing my age, than I was at 42. I'm old enough to have properties. I'm probably next 2 or 3 years old enough really to quit my jobs or whatever you want to call it, but I'm not, because I believe in leaving legacy. When I say legacy, I mean I want to have multiple streams. I have multiple streams currently, but I'm looking more onto building and doing. So I'm in the more building, planning mode. Mortgages are mortgages. You can liquidate, you can shift, you can leverage. I used to not be in that position.
Yeah.
Having gone through my, so when you say debt-free, we carry debt, but my debt is minimal when it comes to, I don't want to get too personal what I'm carrying, but I'm saying the mortgages and things, those are things that you carry on ratios. Debt-free, that's a process, because if you're not a homeowner, property is real estate is I think the one, if not the best, one of the best vehicles to get debt-free. Because we get people listening that don't have a home. So I don't want to talk like I'm this, and that. If you're renting, get into a position to get a property with equity, so you can leverage yourself in 5 or 10 years, 50, whatever your goals are, so you can be debt free. If you're already close to that, when I say if you're 50, 55, and you can look at your debt load and say, wow, I'm carrying less than $100,000 in debt, and I got double or triple the assets. Well, my real estate, that's a good position. That you have that little debt, now you want to accelerate that. And then once you get over $1 million, $2 million, when you really start holding that type of liquidity, that's the position to be in. Because when you wake up in the morning, things are hitting your bank account, and all you're doing is turn on the computer. But you got to have something in place to do that, and that's when the business, the faith to even start a business. Some people can say, I can't do it. I got to still go to work. That's what stops people, is the faith, because they don't see how I get the time, or they don't want to take the classes to get licensed to say I can make a 6-figure income part-time. They don't see it. It scares them because, well, I'm working this. I got the kids. There's always something for people, and they don't believe it. But once they see it and they feel it and they connect with a person that actually cares and says, you know what, I think I can do this. If they got faith and belief, hey, sky's the limit. But if they don't, I don't browbeat people and try to oversell and do it, because I believe what I believe, and I'm a testament, because I if I knew this 20 years ago, you could retire today, Gail, but we all evolve, as you said, in timing.
Yes.
So for my story, it's been a process of learn this, do this, step back, did that.
Right.
Failed at this, did this. So it's been a growth process, but through it all, it got back to finance for me. It took me years to realize, because when I left college, and I'm going back a little bit, my son was born, I left college early. So I never got a chance to even finish my college due to circumstances. So I didn't let that stop me. But looking back when I was 21, so I got into the business world a little early. I was running a business at 21 years old. So I stepped out on it. I'm like, God, I got a son now. I got to go out here and do, but back in the day, running out doing I was just young, and that happens. But my point is, I went out and got into business. Back then at 21, but at 52, oh my God, mine is I can do stuff in my mind, run numbers and calculate in my mind, where the body may be like, shit, I'm taking me a nap. I'm tired. Yeah. but my point is, your mind, as you get older, you can see things quicker in your mind, but your body, you have to build up to what you want to see and physically.
Wisdom at the crossroads.
Yeah, wisdom at the crossroads. So now, having been through a downturn, been through a bad divorce, know what a bankruptcy is like, how to build credit, how to do this, how to do that, been through deaths, seeing people grieve, knowing how to do this, how to evolve, how to write a will, Now, education, empowerment, that's my mantra. So totally different process. Yeah. And I just be the person where they are, because everybody may not need all that, but my point is, it's a testimony, because if God hadn't been there, there've been times I felt like throwing in the towel. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah, well, share with sometimes. So in that time that you felt like throwing in the towel, why? So there's somebody right now that's on the verge of closing their business or stopping their entrepreneurial dreams or not going after their purpose or calling because of divorce or some type of loss of job or of family, especially in these COVID-19 times. People have lost a lot, including hope and faith. Share with our listeners what made you keep on going, even when you were at the verge of saying, I can't go anymore. I can't do this anymore. What made you say, I'm going to keep going?
Tawanda, without a doubt, it was faith, having a prayer closet or a basement, somewhere to go to, and I get into my deep corner, read my scriptures, and pray. And then when my mom was living, who was a prayer warrior, I can't go over there and just, Mom, I need to talk. Let's pray on some stuff. But having that support and talking about it, especially as black men, we have pride. We let pride, the root of pride is selfish. People who listen don't know. Don't let pride block your blessings. If you got some issues and you don't have a prayer partner, or you've gone through a death, or you don't have nobody to talk to, evaluate your faith, because you need to be somewhere comfortable that you can talk to someone, whether it's a church member, a brother or sister, or someone, to say, man, can you just talk to me without any strings attached? And I think that's what holds us back, is we think that, he's going to tell my business, or I don't know him, or this or that. And you sit around and waddle in self-pity, and your blessings get blocked because you don't trust anybody. So you have to, if you trust the Lord, He'll send you a sign. So that's number one. You have to have some. I don't see how people make it without any sort of, and I'm not preaching to nobody, but I'm saying you gotta have Jesus or God, some sort of form of faith in your life. If not, you might as well, just shut it down. Unless you got inheritance money somewhere hidden, or whatever you got. You got to have faith, so you got to believe. But then it's the communication on who are your prayer partners, who are your warriors, your brothers or sisters that you can reach out to, pick up the phone, even when you're doing wrong, that will hold you accountable and give you some unadulterated advice without saying, man, you owe me something, or it's not about owing anybody. It's just talking to them so they can see. And you connect with them. And that's really all it's about, because you make one step, trust me, you pray to the Lord, He'll take two for you. But He's not going to just, anybody know the Lord, He's not going to just give you something and you don't take no steps. I mean, He'll let you sit there and waddle. You sit there and waddle, okay. Because God don't need, He don't need us. We need Him.
Faith does. It's not just about the inner will, but you have to move, as you stated, Donald. If you take one step, the Lord is going to take two steps. If you experience any trouble and you are faithful, He will pay you double for your trouble.
Exactly.
You know,
I
that's
just
a faith
believe
walk. That's that inner faith. So having faith and having a community, like you stated, of either your church or some people that you can go to, that there's no condemnation, there's no judgment.
Right.
Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. I wish people would get that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. And I keep on saying that to people, and they say, yeah, I get it. I said, no, you don't get it because you haven't asked for help. And if you need help, believe it or not, no matter what this world looks like, there's a lot of people that are willing to lend a helping hand to help you. All you have to do is ask. All you have to do is open that door. You'll be surprised at the blessings you will let in once you open that door.
Looking back, God has blessed me beyond measure, but you go through your storms and you go through, I've been there. So people can't look at me and, Don, don't know what it's like. Mm-hmm. That's nonsense. It's just, do you have the faith to either make a change, get stuff together and make a stand and say, I'm not doing it, period, and then move on. A lot of people, they don't have the courage to do it. Hold yourself accountable to better standards, and that's just simple as I can put it.
Yes, and that's why I wanted you to share with the listeners what it's like to be debt-free, because from my standpoint, when you are debt-free, I know you carry some amount of debt, but when I'm talking about when you are debt-free in that realm, your wealth portfolio is more in reach if you are deep in debt and you still have this wealth portfolio vision. So the vision of being wealthy is closer when you're debt-free than you are when you are deep into debt. And this all goes together about people being comfortable, complacent, and conforming to what society has labeled them to be, And also when corporate America slaps on those golden handcuffs, and I know the devil that I'm working for, or I know the devil that I'm in, or the relationship that I am. I don't know what is on the other side. And what we're saying today, the other side is your brilliance, your greatness, your destiny. You just have to step out on faith. You have to have that will to know that you were brought to this earth for something greater. There's nothing on this side of heaven that's impossible. Everything is within our reach, and everything is within our power to grab if we boldly go after it and boldly declare it to be true. If you faithfully walk and do what you need to do, your blessings are on its way. And you, Donald, have boldly did that brilliantly. That's why we wanted to make sure we have you on this podcast. So as we come into the conclusion of the podcast, what are some of the things that you can leave with our folks, a call to action, some of the things you might want to share as we wrap up?
Well, my website is TaylorAndersonLLC.com. Mm-hmm. And then my customer service or email is info@TaylorAndersonLLC.com. That's like a portal. And then from there, if I'm not available, one of my agents, and I'll just get a questionnaire, set up a one-to-one so we can figure out what their needs are. Mm-hmm. And this is all across the country. So even though I'm based in Waldorf, Maryland, the loan portfolio is 50 states. So they can get access to capital in all 50 states.
Okay, that's great. So we're concluding this episode with Donald Anderson of Taylor & Anderson, and I would like to state that we're all in a state of becoming who we have been called and ordained to be in this life. And so giving up is not an option. Failure is not an option. Your greatest days are ahead of you. Your wealth is ahead of you. Whatever you're going through, you're not going through it alone. And hopefully with the gems of greatness that Mr. Anderson has shared with us today, they will inspire and motivate you to achieve your best and blessed life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Broken Brilliance podcast with your host, Tawanda Livingston, CEO of Livingston Works, for your emotional, mental, and business tune-ups. Support our guest speakers by following them on social media, visiting their websites, and purchasing their goods or services. You've been inspired, you've been motivated, you've been activated to move differently in your business and life with unwavering expectations. It's your time to shine. Arrest and cancel self-sabotage, self-defeat, self-hate, and every negative thought, and continuously unlock your purpose, passion, and possibilities. You have been equipped with an arsenal of inspiration and motivation to be an overcomer, a conqueror, an achiever, because you, my friend, are brilliantly broken. Remember to like, share, and tune into the next episode of Broken Brilliance.